WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. This Thursday, December 1st, get ready, because the city is hosting its annual Christmas tree lighting in Boston Common. And I wanted to talk about this because there's a pretty cool story behind this tradition. It goes back more than a century and symbolizes a long friendship between Boston and our neighbors up north, Canada's Nova Scotia. And it just so happens WBUR executive producer for Morning Edition, Dan Guzman, is really into this. I mean, one might even call him a Boston Common Christmas tree superfan. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about this ceremony and the history behind it.
So the history is what really draws me to this. So let's go back all the way back to 1917, December 6th, 1917. World War I's going on. Halifax, Nova Scotia, big city on the coast, big port city, and they deal with a lot of military shipments. And they deal with a lot of, soldiers and munitions coming through. There's this ship in Halifax Harbor, and it's loaded. I mean, this thing is just packed with explosives and ammunition. And nobody knows except the people on board. They're going through one busy morning in the harbor. They collide with another ship. The ship with the munitions, it catches fire, and everybody's looking as this ship slowly goes into the harbor, smashes into land, and explodes.
Oh, my God.
And I'm not talking like a little explosion. This was the largest man-made explosion up until nuclear weapons are invented.
It's like it was a floating bomb, basically.
Exactly. So everybody's watching this, and this thing goes off. It levels everything within about a 2-mile radius. It kills about 2,000 people. It injures about 9,000 more and just devastates the city. A banker in Halifax telegraphs his office in Boston and basically says, "Send help, something bad happened." That's all the details he gives. So here in Boston, they're like, well, man, this must be bad because we can't hear anybody. Nobody's talking to us. Something really bad must have happened. What are we going to do? Within 10 hours, people across Boston, across Massachusetts, load up a train full of medical supplies, medical personnel, blankets, anything they can think of, and they send a train racing north up to Halifax. It takes about a day to get there, but the first relief supplies from the outside world that get to Halifax are from Boston. And it starts this whole relationship, and Halifax never forgets how we were there. A year later, Nova Scotia sends us a Christmas tree as a thank you. And that's where this tradition started.
Yeah, why did Boston react that way? What was the relationship like between Boston and Nova Scotia?
So you have to think about this way back in English colonial times before there was a United States and a Canada. Boston and Halifax are actually pretty close to each other. They're both towns on the sea. They're both shipping cities. They have a lot of culture in common. So Halifax has a lot more in common with Boston than it does with any of the other cities in Canada at the time. The closest one's Montreal, and we're closer to Halifax than Montreal is. So they feel this tie to us, and we feel this tie to them.
How about now? What's the relationship like now with Nova Scotia and Boston? Does that camaraderie still continue?
Yeah, we probably forget about them more than they forget about us, but they remember us. Lots of Bruins fans up there. Saw plenty of Red Sox hats when I was up there this summer.
So, Dan, we got the first Christmas tree in 1918 and every year since, right?
Not exactly. A lot of people, right after the explosion, kind of didn't want to remember it, and they wanted to move on. So we got the first tree in 1918. And then it wasn't until 1971 that we started getting the tree again. A group of Christmas tree growers remembered this story and wanted to restart this gift of kindness and also probably sell a few Christmas trees. As the years went on, the government of Nova Scotia took it over, and we've been getting the tree every year since.
Why exactly a Christmas tree?
They sent a Christmas tree because a lot of the medical personnel who went up from Boston, weeks after the explosion, they started putting up Christmas decorations to try and lift people's spirits. So that Christmas connection was there from the jump. Nova Scotia has lots of forests, lots of trees, lots of lumber. So that's what they had. And that's what they could send as a thank you.
Yeah. And what kind of tree is it?
So this year, it's a 45-foot white spruce. I don't know how that differs from any other kind of spruce, but it's 45 feet, so that, it's tall. And it's oddly enough from a place called Christmas Island. There's a big contest every year to donate your tree to be the tree. This year's from Christmas Island.
All right, I want to get kind of nerdy here too. How does it get here? Do they put it on a boat? Does it get sent on a truck, train? How does it get here?
They have a big ceremony. They cut it down. They put it on a big truck and they bring it to Halifax. They have a big send-off and then they truck it on down. It comes down the highway. I don't know what it's like to have to fill out inspection papers for crossing the border with a giant 45-foot tree. I thought it was bad enough trying to get a few six-packs of beer back in the country.
Yeah.
But yeah, they drive it on down.
So talk to us about this ceremony. Exactly what happens in Boston Common every year? What's it look like? What's the feeling like? Give me a sense of what it's like to be there.
So first things first, it's cold. It's December. It's Boston. The last time I went, I was glad I had a few Canadian beverages in me before I went to the lighting because it was cold.
Okay. You stuck with the theme with the Canadian beverages.
Well, yeah, you got it. If you're in for a penny, in for a pound. It starts at 6. They have lots of musical performances. This year, they're going to have some music from Six the Musical, which Candace Springer mentioned on The Common a few weeks ago.
Shout out to Candace. Yep, Six. Shout out to them.
Then about 8 o'clock, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, along with Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston, and usually Santa Claus, come on, they flip a switch, lights go on. It's gorgeous. And after they do the ceremony, they walk down to the ComAv Mall and flip on the switches for all those beautiful lights down there along the Commonwealth Avenue Mall.
Oh, man, that sounds really cool. I don't know, man. I might have to pop out there myself. And, hey, maybe I'll also have a little Canadian beer. I don't know. But so let me ask you this. How much of a draw is it for the city, this tree? Is it I'm thinking New York City and Rockefeller Center, for example. You know what I mean? It's such an attraction. Does this tree have the same effect?
I think if it doesn't, it should. Boston has some beautiful trees in different neighborhoods in Boston. They have their own beautiful trees. This is more than just a tree. It's that symbol of friendship. It's that symbol of camaraderie. And it's on the Common. It's great. I love walking around town around this time of year and just checking out the Christmas lights in different places. And this is a good place to either start or end.
What will you be doing? Will you go see it?
So I'm someone who comes into work at 2:30 in the morning. So no, this is a little past my bedtime.
Okay.
But I will go downtown some point over December to see it because it's really cool. And not to sound nerdy, but I get a little choked up when I see it because it's just, I don't know, it's a symbol of kindness and hope in a world where you don't always get that. You don't always have that. And it's cool. It's neat. And I'll be the chatty person who will tell everybody who's by the tree this entire story. Or I'll just tell them to listen to the Common. That's fine.
So, Dan, I hear your enthusiasm, and I'm very curious to know, what does this tradition and the story behind it mean to you?
To me, it means that a good deed doesn't go forgotten. I actually this week got a chance to talk to Tim Houston. He's the premier of Nova Scotia, essentially the governor of the province. And he told me what he wants people to get out of seeing the tree when they go to view it.
It's a crazy world. There's lots going on, especially if you think about the world right now as well, right? But I hope when they look at that, they think that, that they know that no act of kindness goes unnoticed. And I want them to remember and be proud of what they did to help Nova Scotia in its time of need.
Yeah, it's really a nice story. Boston showed up when Nova Scotia was in need, and Nova Scotia to this day seems to not take that for granted. And that's really cool to see. And it's also especially cool that every year the city can be reminded of that.
Yeah, good reminder that we're good people when we need to be.
Dan, thank you so much for coming by and reminding us of this story. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Daryl. Happy holidays.
That's WBUR executive producer for Morning Edition, Dan Guzman.
Politics has never been stranger or more online, which is why the politics team at Wired is making a new show, Wired Politics Lab. It's all about how to navigate the endless stream of news and information and what to look out for. Each week on the show, we'll dig into far-right platforms, AI chatbots, influencer campaigns, and so much more. Wired Politics Lab launches Thursday, April 11th. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.
One more thing before you go. We've got another round of our series, Common Curates. It's where we ask Team Common and friends of the pod to share their favorite recent Greater Boston finds. Let's get into it.
I'm Emily Jankowski, sound designer for WBUR Podcasts, and my Common Curates pick for the week is a new restaurant called Tonino in Jamaica Plain. It's a cozy little spot right on Center Street, and while I have yet to sit inside, I have ordered their pizza to go, and it's a delicious Sicilian style. The margherita comes with stracciatella instead of mozzarella, and it's to die for.
Hey, I'm Amory Sievertson. I'm the co-host of the podcast Endless Thread, and my Common Curates pick for the week is Plymouth, Massachusetts. All of it. The Rock is small, but it was fun to see it. It felt important to see that and some of the other statues and historical figures they have there. I had a great beer at Mayflower Brewing Company in Plymouth. I had tea at Shelley's Tea Rooms, which had an extensive menu of tea and scones and things, even vegan scones for my fellow vegans out there. So check out Plymouth, Massachusetts. And they have a holiday market happening this weekend. So do it now. Have fun. Thank me later.
Shout out to Emily and Amory. Both those options sound really good. Of course, I'm always looking for a nice day trip and a great restaurant, so thanks for those suggestions. My suggestion is actually an album, and it's from an artist who is from Boston named Edo G. This is an MC, who goes back to the early 90s and just one of Boston's greatest MCs for sure. And the album is called Life of a Kid in the Ghetto, and it's actually from Edo G and the Bulldogs. This album is one that I missed as a kid, and man, I'm so glad that I'm revisiting this or going back in time to give this a listen for the first time because it sounds so good. It's just like a time capsule from a golden era of hip hop with just straight up hard beats, clever, thoughtful lyrics, great storytelling, and it's all representing Boston. Not a bar is wasted. So if you want to break from the new stuff, go ahead and give that a listen. You're going to love it. And that's it for the show today. We want to hear what's got you hyped in Boston. So drop us an email at thecommon@wbur.org or hit us up on Twitter at WBURTheCommon and use the hashtag CommonCurates to keep us in the loop. For now, I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.